last question. It sounds like what you're talking about is a little bit, you put something out there in the market, and how the customers use it, that's what you follow. That's essentially what you're kind of following the customers, perhaps. But here's the second part. I may have been wrong.
No, go ahead.
The other aspect is, where does, if at all, the idea of having a goal to solve a problem that's so big, some moonshot idea, where does that fit in, if at all? Do you agree with that methodology or not? And so you're following the customer on one side, but if you have a moonshot goal, you're sort of leading the market a little bit. So how do those?
Yeah, sure.
How do you square those?
Yeah. Well, I think to answer kind of the first part of the question, you should always get really curious about why your customer is behaving in a certain way. So yeah, you need to follow them, but it doesn't mean that you're going to do what they say, if that makes sense. But you should watch how they're behaving. So that's kind of the big thing. It's one thing to go, a customer says, I need feature X, but you should be like, well, that's usually, why? Like, how are you behaving today? What's your environment look like today? And then when you give them your new product, how are they behaving tomorrow? So that's going to always lead you to maybe the next place you need to go. Like, oh, I didn't quite solve the problem, right? So you followed them there, but again, you get really curious about why your customers are behaving in a certain way, because they could have uncovered, just like the example I gave, uncovered something you hadn't, like, they didn't even know was something they wanted. Okay. That's where stuff gets really fun.
Right. But you know that they're having a problem. You know that they're trying to solve something. So if you're actually visionary enough, you may be able to come up with a third product or service, which essentially eliminates those problems and solves all those problems. This is the dream sort of product or service. But
so on the lofty goal part, we have companies in here that are trying to, change healthcare, right? The face of different things, right? We've got a couple companies that really are, I think, disrupting a couple of markets. The funny thing is I don't think sometimes they start as lofty goals. I think in healthcare, it's easier to be a lofty goal. In another area, in financial technology, I wouldn't say it started as a small idea that ended up being a really big idea. Like, holy crap, we can not just right. So it kind of revealed itself. The lofty goal revealed itself. Mm-hmm. I think lofty goals a lot of times come from, the entrepreneur themselves. They have a passion in changing something, right? Like changing healthcare or changing transportation or changing something. But you have to decide and discover where you're going to start. So that's what I'm talking about, is you can be led by actually a lot of times they call it there's this term now called an MTP, which is a massively transformative purpose.
I've heard of MVPs.
TP. So Google, right? Google's MTP, which is like to organize the world's information or data. It's a pretty lofty goal, right?
Like a mission, sort of?
Well, it's usually something that's unattached, massively transformative purpose.
Wow.
And, or like TED has sharing the world's ideas, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, that's a pretty massively, but it doesn't point to, sometimes it doesn't even point to your product or direction or what you're going to build.
How? It says something about how,
but it's very, it's very, it's like, wow, that's a pretty lofty goal. Organize the world's information or share the world's ideas. How are you going to do that? The how part is that discovery, right? Mm-hmm. It's what's the first problem we're going to solve? Or what's the first opportunity to organize data? Create a search engine or, create a conference where people can come and share ideas. Mm-hmm. Well, that worked. What's next? Right. So no lofty goal idea was accomplished. It was accomplished because they discovered that the path that, one day they woke up and said, holy crap, we did it.
That is very cool. Well, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day today to talk with me, Erin. I really appreciate it. Thank you.